Well, hello, friends and foes. Welcome back to another look at my flag collection. Hope you all had a good July 4th, and today I'm gotten up in the attire of a 1770s American privateer, or as close as I could come to it. The story of this flag is rather unique in that it begins in the wake of a battle.
At a spot known as Flamborough Head, the SERAPIS, a British naval frigate, went up against the Bonhomme Richard, an armed merchant vessel captained by none other than the infamous American sea dog, John Paul Jones. After 4 hours of vicious cannon fire, the British captain asked if the Americans were ready to surrender. Captain Jones responded with one of the most epic lines in American history.
"I have not yet begun to fight."
The crew of the Bonhomme Richard threw out grappling hooks, lashing the ships together. With the two decks nearly touching, they leapt over the rails onto the enemy ship, and into a ferocious hand-to-hand battle. The arrival of another of Jones's ships brought the struggle to an end, and the British surrendered to the Americans. This victory marked a turning point in the American War for Independence. Formerly an obscure Scottish sailor turned Yankee privateer, John Paul Jones had successfully raided along the British coastline, and now had defeated a ship of the Royal Navy, despite being outgunned. The British had boasted of their naval superiority, but today it seemed that Britain did not rule the waves. Despite his victory, Captain Jones had little time to celebrate. His own ship, the Bonhomme Richard, was horribly damaged in the battle, and would soon be a smoldering, sinking hulk. The Americans quickly boarded the captured SERAPIS, claiming the British ship as their own.
After the battle, Jones was desperately in need of repairs and supplies, and so he headed off to the nearest neutral port, the Dutch-owned harbor of Texel. Now, the Dutch, upon his arrival, they immediately seized Jones, because he was not flying any flag, and this basically marked him as a pirate. The SERAPIS, of course, had been flying a British flag that had been lost during the battle, and the flag that was being flown aboard the Bonhomme Richard was also sunk along with the ship. The Dutch, in spite of receiving multiple messages from the British demanding that they hang Jones as a pirate, decided to pursue a neutral option, and so they reached out to the U.S. ambassador to France at the time, none other than Benjamin Franklin, and asked him what to do about it. Franklin was actually an old friend of John Paul Jones. They had exchanged letters for quite some time now. He had actually helped with the French government procuring a ship for Jones to use during his raids on the British, and the Bonhomme Richard, the ship that John Paul Jones had just lost, was actually named for Benjamin Franklin's old pen name, Poor Richard, which Bonhomme Richard translates to in French. Franklin had also supported Jones with some of his strategic recommendations to the American High Command, and Jones also hailed Franklin as a great and good man to whom I am under great obligation and who honors me with his friendship. Now, there's a slight misconception that I used to believe about the origins of this flag. Some believe that this was basically a misunderstanding in which the Dutch harbor authorities were told, yeah, the American flag has some stars and some stripes, and there's red, white, and blue. You get the picture. And then they mistakenly created this rather strange variation of what we would recognize as the American flag. However, this design actually has some precedent in a design that was conceptualized by Arthur Lee, who was the U.S. Commissioner in France a year earlier. He actually described the flag as having 13 stars, 13 stripes, but he described the stripes as being alternating red, white, and blue. So, based on this description, the Dutch were able to put together a flag that John Paul Jones could use. He was given the flag, released, and welcomed back into the port as a regular customer. Now, while these stripes aren't perfectly alternating in red, white, and blue, this may be because the Dutch themselves had a flag of their own, simply known as the Nine Stripes flag, that had been flown from, I believe, the 16th century onward, that had perfectly alternating red, white, and blue stripes. Although it wasn't, I believe, used as the official Dutch Republic flag at the time. They probably didn't want this American naval flag to overlap too much with one of their own. And because nothing was specified about how many points the stars should have, the Dutch just went with 8 and called it a day. Now, while this flag did help avert a crisis, it never really caught on as an official banner for American ships. The American Navy simply started flying the national colors over time. And despite this, the flag still lives on as the official banner of the 111th Infantry Regiment, whose origins go back to 1747, when the unit was actually founded by none other than our old friend Benjamin Franklin. The flag was even carried into battle by the 111th during Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2009, and it also appears on the coat of arms of the destroyer USS John Paul Jones. So there you have it. This flag began as a one-time improv that saved a state-sponsored pirate from legal troubles and is now floating around as a curiosity for collectors and military history buffs alike. Hope to return to you soon with either another flag video or perhaps something else, you never know. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you for watching the Mad Poet himself.